Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to talk about my hobby, which is computer games and gaming. You get the first sneak preview of my new book, because it's not even in print yet. It will be released in October, first in Dutch, maybe hopefully next year in English. I'm going to go through these topics, but I'm going to skip a lot, because we only have 40 minutes for this presentation. And I can't, do a whole book in 45 minutes. But I'm going to emphasize on two things during my presentation, which is the game storm as a methodology we use, and an example of how we use a feedback application for Vodafone in Holland to motivate people actually to give feedback on each other. So quickly, who am I? Because most of it is on LinkedIn or Twitter. I used to study industrial communication and information management, and I used to study brand management, so I'm more like a marketing guy. Obviously I wrote a book. I founded Brand New Game 7 years ago, and I founded the Gamification Academy, and I give a lot of lectures about gamification and how to use game mechanics for serious purposes. So the loop of our company, basically, and it's still only one person, is I do a lot of publications. I write books, I write blogs. That gives me an opportunity to speak about my hobby during presentations. So I do a lot of these presentations, which I like to do because I wanted to become a stand-up comedian, but that didn't work. So now I can do a little bit more serious talk. And of course, we do projects because you need to get some money out of the things you do, right? So just talking and writing doesn't make you a rich person. So let me quickly ask you guys, who of you feels that he is a very creative person? Okay. And who of you feels he's very reactive? Yeah, that you react instead of create. So you can create is something you do proactively upfront, and reactive is more like I say something to you and then you react, like just now. Who's more reactive? And who's both? Because I think these days you need to be both, probably, because everything is going faster and faster. Companies are being competitors before you know. So in the old days, we thought you had to be either creative or reactive, but I think now you need to be both. It's like ping pong. You have to continuously play into the market. And that's one of the bottom lines that I want to give you to think about, that you can't be static anymore. Everything's dynamic. Everything is moving. And I'm going to share two inspirations with you. There are two computer games, actually, that helped me to write my book. And one of them is Donkey Kong. I don't know if you remember this one, but I was 12, friends on the school that had a lot of money that had this game, actually. It was 100 guilders. I don't know how many drachmas it was in those days, but in euros, it was like 50 euros, I think. Let me quickly show you the game, how it works, to freshen up your memory if you know it, and if you don't know it, you're probably very young. But there's a little guy here. He runs upstairs, pulls a lever, runs, jumps, and removes a hook here from the podium that this Donkey Kong is standing on, and there's a princess over here. So he starts here again, jumps the barrel, runs up the ladder, pulls the lever, and removes another hook here. And he vanishes mysteriously. He comes back here, runs up the ladder again, jumps, and again that happens. You will not be surprised that this happens once more. In those days, there weren't a lot of opportunities for creativity yet. So, of course, more barrels come down. It becomes a little bit more complicated after the first 3 tries. So has to wait. Don't forget to pull the lever, run up, remove another hook. You will see that the podium will start flickering, and the monkey falls down, and he gets a kiss from the princess. Does anyone know what the name of that guy was? Mario. It was his first appearance, I think, in a handheld computer game. He was a plumber. But this game really inspired me because it has the basic game mechanics of a lot of games that came past after that time. One of them is, can you guess? A target. An objective. There's always an objective. You need to do something in a computer game. It's not voluntarily. You need to save the princess. That's the objective in this game. But there's obstacles, of course. You saw ladders, you saw barrels, you saw a lever that you have to pull. And there's actions. And those actions that you undertake have either positive consequences or negative consequences. So green and up is good, and red and down is bad. It's game lingo. And the consequences are maybe happiness, maybe you get some feedback about the time or the place where you are, and finally you can score in the game. Most of the times it's points. In our business life, most of the time it's money. So the basic game mechanics are objective, challenges, actions, feedback, and score. It's quite similar to life, no? To business life. And the most important part probably is feedback. And that's something, when I finished writing my book, my end conclusion was, I think companies can only become better if we give more feedback. But giving feedback is often awkward. Sometimes it's a surprise. Often it's a negative surprise, because if you get feedback to perform better, it's something that, so you did something wrong or not good enough. This is why I want to elaborate on feedback at the end of the presentation with a case example. But if you see these 5 mechanics, we built something upon this, which we call the game storm. We normally develop computer games. So digital games to train people, for instance, to make them sell more or to ask better questions or to give feedback or whatever. But our clients don't want to talk about the bad things in life. They always say, yeah, we have an excellent company and we want to just get the code of conduct across, or to have people train better. But I always ask, so what's wrong then? What's the problem? Yeah, there's no problem. We just want to add a little fun. But there's always a problem, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. So I asked them at least to define what the objective is. What is it that you wish to achieve? And we do this game storm with 6 people, most of the time the management team of a company. But if I ask them, what do you want to achieve? One person says, we want to have more sales. And the other says, no, we want to have happier employees. And the other person says, we want to have better prices to purchase products. So it's a wide variety of objectives. But I don't know if you ever tried to chase 2 rabbits at the same time. It's really hard. So we need to have only one objective. So I always say there's only one objective that comes on the table. And then I ask everyone to write down the main obstacles. Why is it so hard to catch this rabbit or to save this princess? Write it down. They all write it down, and only 3 obstacles in the end come on the table. Of course, this is a creative session, but I can't go through it in detail. It takes us normally half a day with 6 people. But at least we have a clear goal of what's the objective and which obstacles are there. And in game lingo, we call obstacles challenges. Makes it a bit more fun. And then I split up the 6 people in 2 teams, 3 and 3. And I name one team the creators and the other team the killers. And the killers can think negatively. They can think, oh, everything what's wrong with this organization, I don't like the managers, I'm not motivated, whatever it is the problem, they can write it down. And the creators have to think about the positive side of life and think about the future. So what will we start doing tomorrow and what will we stop doing tomorrow? To get an idea of the desired behavior from now on. Of course, then in the end, we try to score that behavior. So what's the impact if we stop doing this and if we start doing that in terms of money? And for instance, I can ask you, what is it worth if you work for Vodafone that people approach a client with a smile? How much money will it make us? Does anyone have an idea? It's difficult to determine a smile and the impact on money, right? But we did that with this client, and I said, how many stores do you have? He said, yeah, we have 200 stores in Holland. I said, okay, and how many clients leave your store in a week because they don't get an approach with a happy smile? He said, I don't know. I said, I don't know either, but you're the marketing manager, so you must have an idea. He said, after 5 minutes of up and down ping-ponging, he said, well, okay, maybe 1 every week. Okay, so 1 client leaves your store every week, and you have 200 stores. There's 50 weeks in a year. What's the average amount of money that they spend in your store? He said, well, about 100 euros. I said, okay, so you lose 2 million euros every year because people don't smile if a client comes in. He said, yeah, I never thought of it that way. I said, no, but that's game design, that's game thinking, that's the way we try to score human behavior to get a feeling what the impact is on money. So I just explained the game storm in 5 minutes. Normally it takes half an hour or half a day, so don't feel bad if you don't really get the concept. But this is what we do. And this is what we start with all the time. And this is what the game storm looks like after 4 hours of play. This is a team in London. This was with the Municipal of Amsterdam. So you can play it with 6 people. We played it with 40 people for Foot Locker Europe, but they liked it so much that eventually we played it with 800 people in 4 sessions of 200 with a lot of tables. So it can be done. We built an app for that, of course, because I couldn't manage it on my own. But it's a nice way of defining the game storm. And I'm actually actively looking now for game storm troopers. So if you feel this is interesting, we're doing a session in Amsterdam to train an army of game stormers to go out there in the world to sell this idea. Let me quickly check the time. So inspiration number 2 for me was the game Farmville. Who knows Farmville? There's a lot of Farmville people here. Don't feel embarrassed, about 50 million people played this game. The interesting about this game is that the game loop is something that really inspired me. There's a few steps in this game. You have to plant seeds, you have to wait, then you have to harvest your crops, and then you can use that money to actually invest in a better farm or make it a really beautiful farm. There's a loop. And people love loops. I mean, we all love doing the same thing over and over and over again. But being really productive in that way doesn't make us really creative. But in Farmville, if you do it really, really well, you have such a beautiful farm like this. So I was thinking, which loops are dominantly in companies that we can actually use and utilize to continuously level up, like in games. Like in these games, eventually you can buy land, you can protect your crops, you can unlock special features, you can play for higher stakes, and you level up. And you can become better and better and get a higher level and more money, etc. So what would that be if we translate that to a company? That was something that inspired me. So, giving you back, why do I think you should use gamification? First of all, it's goal-oriented, so it gives you a sense of purpose. It's action-driven, which gives you as a player the feeling of autonomy, and it gives you, a game gives you continuously feedback, which actually leads to mastery, so you become better and better every time you play that game. And I don't know if you know Daniel Pink, the writer, but he says these are the 3 most motivating elements of people, the most element to drive them. Of course, you also need to score and measure performance. That's what I think, that gives you an idea of your progress. And games, of course, are fun. So I want to make your work more fun. That's why we invented the Game Storm, to have more fun during your work. So what's my game plan for change? Does anyone know this one? I don't think this is a game plan for change. I think it's a game plan to start up. But they sold about 100,000 copies, and they did a lot better than my first book. But this is not the game plan. The game plan is a dynamic plan. It's not a static plan. It contains 5 steps. And it all starts with purpose. It's all about people. It's about your business processes. And it's about measuring the performance of the people and their processes. And you can kickstart the change by play. Obviously, that's what we do. So play, for me, is the kickstart for change. And I'm going to skip to a concept to give you a feeling about that, because it will take me too long to explain the whole 5 steps. But I hope it gives you an idea. But time-wise, I think I need to speed up a little bit. So let me pick it up at performance starting and moving to play. Now, before we do a game storm or before we do anything at all, I ask my clients to explain their playground. Like, what's your business playground? Is it about making more money, or is it about saving costs? And is it about doing that by using people internally or externally? So is it about mobilizing staff, like people internally, maybe employees at Vodafone, teaching them to sell more product? Yes or no? And if they're going to do that or not do it, depends on a lot of things. I analyzed why they do or do not do things. And basically, it's 4 processes. If they don't want to do that, they will never do it. So it starts with motivation and drives. If you don't, play with the right mechanics, they will never do it at all. It's about knowing what to do, so if they have the knowledge to do it, they can do it. Then obviously they need to do it physically, they need to be able to do it physically, and if they can't, they won't do it. And eventually, and that's probably the hardest part, they need to dare to do it. Do they have the guts to do it? Do they have the guts to ask the question? Do they have the guts to give feedback to someone? And those 4 elements need to be in place. If it's all about wanting, knowing, being able, and daring to do it. And if that doesn't work, we'll use gamification, because then we're going to make them want to do it. We can do it with the game storm, of course, or do something else. These are just a few examples of games that we developed in the past, and I'm going to show you one gamification system that we released for Vodafone. So this was one of our first gamification projects. Most of the time we just developed serious games, which is really a game, but this is just something that's about giving feedback to each other, and it contains some gamification elements. So the selling process of this company goes as follows. A client comes into the store, which is an opportunity. A salesperson needs to connect, needs to discover why this person is here, needs to excite them because of the products they have, need to confirm to make a sale, and finally deliver the product to make the sale done and actually increase revenues. So we released a mobile platform, which is actually like comparable to an intranet. On this intranet, there's like a Twitter function, which is totally safe and closed. There's this news or information about the stores, the academy, a calendar of specific events. And of course, there's an application of ours that's about giving feedback. And let me quickly show you a little bit how it works. So this is an overview of people that work in the store. So Bart Hufen, that's me. I work in this store. Jonathan and Niels. This is fake, of course. And I can see if someone is having a sales conversation in the store. I can listen in because it's a small store, or I can just stand there in the vicinity, use either the computer or the telephone to give this person feedback on his sales conversation. So I can tap on the sales phase that this person is in and then give feedback through the app. So I'm going to teach you some Dutch right now. So, was de begroeting means how was the opening? Did he say hi in a pleasant way? Was it honest? Did it fit the client? And how did this person play from a 10? And playing from a 10 means, in their lingo, was the person here with 100% attention and focus and energy, or was he still rounding up the store and saying hello and can I help you? Or how was the energy and was he focused, yes or no? And finally, of course, there's also a box to give quality feedback with a sentence. But if you're in a store and there's clients coming in all the time, sometimes you're not able to give really extensive feedback, so you can do that for a different moment. So you can do this on each phase. And of course, after you've done it a few times, you get a feedback that, congratulations, you just unlocked a new badge. For instance, the first step, the first time you give feedback. So there's a lot of different ways of interaction and feedback possible. In this case, I unlocked 2 badges at the same time. That's possible. And you can also share if you got a new badge on the social internet. So that's an extra feature. So other people can see, hey, Bart gave someone feedback 3 times, 6 times, 10 times, whatever. So it's very transparent, it's very open. Managers can see on district level and national level how often people are giving feedback to each other. That's more information than they will ever have before, because feedback is still something that's really not in our system. We feel maybe a little bit shy, or we're like, why should I be the person giving feedback to you because I'm not your boss or whatever. So the idea of this game is really to encourage people to give feedback more often during their sales conversation or after, and you get a ping on your mobile phone as soon as someone gave you feedback. So you can go to that person and say, hey, I read the feedback. What do you mean by standing up? Oh yeah, I should stand up more when I have a conversation. I should be proud and not level too much. Any questions so far? Because this is the biggest part of this presentation. No questions? Okay. Let me, yeah? Yes?
This feedback mechanism,
Yeah. I'll repeat the question. Yes, the question is, does giving feedback lead to confrontations in the team? Obviously it does, but I think that a little bit of rubbing is good for teams. I'm of course not the boss of Vodafone, so I don't get all the information back from them, but they're very happy with using the tool because since it's transparent, I know exactly that you gave feedback to me, so we can have a discussion about it. If things heat up, of course the manager needs to step in and have the discussion with them. But we recently also added a printable form. Hello, white papers again, paperless office. No, but it helps them to print it and to have like a monthly meeting, printing out all the feedback that someone got, just to discuss it. Like, okay, people say Bart needs to stand up more straight, he needs to slow down a little bit, focus his energy better or whatever. I think we managed to not make it a finger-pointing app, because Dutch people are really good at saying, yeah, he did it or she did it or whatever, instead of going like this. And it helps, I think, people to go more like this, and taking feedback as a positive thing to become better in what you do, instead of saying you did it wrong. So did I answer your question? More or less, okay. Yeah, well, that's something that comes out from the app, of course, because if we see that you don't use it at all, we know probably at least that or you don't like it or you're introvert or whatever. So in the end, I think that the fact that it's digital and measurable, you at least know that someone uses it or doesn't use it. And if he doesn't use it, you can find out why he doesn't like it or use it. And maybe find different forms to gather feedback, because obviously digital and gamification is not the answer for everyone. So maybe you should say, okay, if you really don't like it, really don't want to use it, we'll just do this. But yeah, sir.
What is the experience until now, and which percentage are they using it? Is it?
We released it half a year ago without any pressure, with no, how do you say, we didn't enforce the usage. We had some technical problems in the startup, obviously. That's a problem with technical stuff, but eventually we got it working. So it didn't pick up really fast in the beginning, to be honest. Some stores that were already used to giving feedback picked it up really quickly. Other people stayed a little bit behind. Now we said there's a 1 week quotum or a target. You just have to give one person feedback every week, and that works really well. We now saw 1,400 iterations last week. So that's a lot. So apparently giving people a target, an objective, works really well again. So, but it's not a target you have to do it every day, twice, or it's a target, do it once every week to easily get started with it and to get yourself familiarized with this new way. Yes?
Just one question. The people who are using it, the sales people in the store, do they see it as a, I have to do it once, or do they see it as a game?
Let's
play the game today.
The question is, do they experience it as being fun? Are they engaged, or is it an obligation?
Yes, because I think what we're trying to say is that training people with games is always a great thing to learn something. So my question is, do people get it? Do they get that it's a game? And yeah, let's press about this today.
I think they are experiencing more and more fun of it, and especially understanding the deeper goal, or the goal that we have behind it. In the beginning, I think it feels a bit enforced, probably. Yeah. But of course, we took the store managers in the process of developing it, and half of them said, I just want to see information. I just want to see what type of feedback has been given. And the other people said, I want to finish all those badges. I want to have those badges. That's really something for me. And if you press on the badges, for instance, you will actually see, like aiming for the stars. You didn't have it yet, but you have to receive a 3 out of 3 during the connect phase. That's really a target or an achievement if you receive that. So it probably depends what type of person you are. We can't please everyone with one. There's never a one-stop solution, but so far the responses are really good. And we just got to go to also include a knowledge test, which actually will push questions every day, like just to test your knowledge. What's the difference between 3G and 4G? Stuff like that. So actually to keep working also on the knowledge part of the salespeople. Yeah. Another question.
Yeah, I see you working for operations and for sales.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it also working for knowledge workers, for programmers? How do you?
That could work. The thing is, this game or this gamification system we released exclusively now for Vodafone. So we actually didn't really think about further. We did something for them 3 years ago, so that's how I got to know them. 3 years ago, we really developed a serious game, which you can really play with people in your store in a different way. Yeah, well, I think it could work for different companies, obviously, because in Holland, like in banks and insurance companies, they feel it's also quite awkward to give feedback. But if you make it a little bit more fun and you put achievements on it, maybe instead of just being badges, you could say, okay, your goal for this week is to become a feedback guru, which means you have to give one person of your team feedback every day. I don't know, for a week. So then make it more challenging. And once again, I think in the beginning it will feel a bit awkward, but if you get used to doing it, you know, swimming in cold water, the first time you don't like it, but the second time it becomes a bit better, and the third time maybe you might even like it. So, yeah, it's something to push people to do something that they really didn't want to do. To that sense, did anyone here play Pokemon Go? How many people? Almost 1/3. Were you ever planning on running around through gardens of other people searching for virtual characters that don't even exist? I mean, so if we talk about changing behavior with game mechanics, I think Pokemon Go was, for me, was the golden example. It came out just before my book was finished, so I could quickly tie it in, because I mean, that's something that's the power of game mechanics right there. Obviously also because if it's a very strong brand and a very known brand, but yeah, we hope that we can motivate people in this same direction. Let me finish off by giving you at least some examples online. There are a lot of cases that we are allowed to talk about online. Unfortunately, I can't talk about every project, so but that's just the way companies work. But let me quickly grab back to the elements in the book. Basically, it all starts with purpose. Every job we do, probably we ask the clients, like, okay, what is it that your people like to do? What drives and motivates them? Because if you don't know that, you can create any game you like to kickstart change, but you will probably have the wrong mechanics and they don't address the right purpose. So that's step one for us most of the time. And obviously, purpose is connected to people. Whether we develop a game for people internally, externally, whether it's for consumers or employees, we need to know who they are and why they do what they do. So those are two connected. Then the process is something I couldn't explain today because it takes too much time, but it's inspired by Farmville. It's inspired by what do companies do every day in and out that gives you progress or performance. In my case, it's publications, presentations, doing projects. And if I've done a project, I can blog about it again, do a presentation again, and maybe get a new client and do another project. So that's my loop. That's the loop that I use actually to create growth. And that's what I'm challenging companies to do, to search for those loops that actually create progress. And of course, the game storm is a methodology to measure performance, to measure the impact of behavior, like what does it cost if someone doesn't smile when a client enters the store? It can cost you 2 million euros every year, and that's only a smile. So that's the value of that. And that's why we always start in the middle. That's why we always start with the game storm, to see what change is necessary and how we can make fun. So, like I said earlier, we're heavily looking for game stormtroopers in the future. So if you feel this is an interesting methodology, let us know. Please leave your business card and join the Gamification Academy. We have some sessions planned this year already on the 15th of December. So if you like to come to Amsterdam, we can maybe enlighten you and you can join us. If there's any questions, I'm available right now, and I think I saved a little bit of time for the next speaker otherwise.
Oh, you speak a lot, and hopefully we have questions here from the audience, either through panel sensor, or
There we go.
oh, there you go.
Yes. Do you
Or-
want to do it with the microphone?
Yes,
Or, yeah.
let's do the microphone thing.
Do you find that the feedback is generally negative, or is there a way to give appreciative feedback as well?
With the Vodafone case, the Speedback app, well, it was funny that we, in the beginning, we created a rather small window, just one tweet actually to give feedback. But when people started using it more often, they said the window is not big enough. So if they were going to give feedback, by writing feedback, they really started writing extensive stories about what they wanted to teach the other person. But they were all relatively positive because it's all transparent, it's all open. So I would never consider writing anything negative because I wrote it. So, and we're in the same store. So it's all about really team building on a positive way instead of trying to go like this. You can't do this anymore because it's obvious that you were telling it to me. So you avoid gossip, I think, or we try to eliminate gossip and try to motivate people to actually just being candid or honest and saying like, hey brother, you need to stand up or you need to smile more or don't feel so timid or yeah. Some questions there. Now it's going to be a running game.
Yes, and I have two more here from the past.
Hello, and how you can measure the quality of the feedback. For example, okay, you don't smile, but you have beautiful eyes, you're cute, so let's give you 3 stars and let's go for a drink.
Yeah. Well, for now the feedback is just in the stores, so it's only with colleagues amongst each other. Well, obviously the store manager gets a digest on any moment he wants, so it's real time. So you can, as a store manager, you can see all the feedback that has been given in your store from all employees. So he can moderate it, of course. What he also can do is copy feedback or tips, actually what we call them. So they end up in the loading screen. As soon as you start the application, you get a tip, and that is randomized. So it could be a tip from you giving feedback to another person about, I don't know, ask more questions instead of talking so much. Could be an excellent tip for me, actually.
I'm wondering regarding motivation. So what happens when one has all the badges? That's the one end of the scale.
Yeah.
And the other one, you have a newcomer, and he sees other people having tens of badges and says, what chance have I got to match
that's
John's
always a
kid?
problem. What we do right now, actually, we chose to reset all the badges every month. So every month, everyone starts at the same level again. But what we want to do in the future is to create more badges, of course, different badges, maybe create more different levels. There are levels in the badges already, so there, a few are very easy, of course, if you give one-time feedback or one-time feedback in a different phase. But the more, higher level badges, you can only achieve by doing something 50 times. Those are the ones that you can post on the internet also, because they didn't want to just see badges on the internet, because there's also different types of feedback there. So we right now chose to reset it every month. It's not the best way, to be honest, but it's an affordable way currently. Any other questions? Yeah, in the back.
Yeah. What is the motivation for winning the badges? I mean, what is the reason? I wouldn't care about badges at all.
Me too. Neither would I, but I don't care also about Pokemon in someone's garden. So I'm a really bad example. I would probably not like to do this. That's why we pre-tested it and took people in the development process of the client. And once again, there were people that said, I don't give a damn about those badges, but I do give a damn about the feedback that people give towards each other. And I want to become a better person. So I like the feedback qualitatively, or I like the stars and the candid feedback. But true, not everyone will get motivated by badges.
Well, my point is I'm actually quite coincidentally reading Actionable Gamification by Yu-Kai Chu, who points at this issue of the badges, that badges are often introduced as a way to motivate people, and he says the badges should reflect some kind of intrinsic motivation as sort of a proof that you did something, because it shows that you're more competent now, or you or achieved something. But
Yeah.
if it's just earning badges, then it will quickly die out.
Well, it reflects obviously what someone does in this case. So if you gave someone feedback 3 times, or you received feedback on a certain level, then that reflects or gives actually feedback of what you have done or what someone else thinks you have done in a qualitative way. So it is an appreciation. Obviously, it's all tied up to objective, challenges, actions. So it does use the basic game mechanics, and I've been doing it for 7 years. So, and the fact that Vodafone still wants to continuously improve it, I feel that it must work. Otherwise, they would have stopped probably. But I agree that it's a first step right now. We need to keep on evolving and making it more interesting for different types of people. But for now, the data tells us that it's quite received well. So yeah, that gives me a positive feeling.
Bart, how does this idea relate to kudos, and whether you have extensively used it in organizations of 4,000 people and more?
I don't know kudos, to be honest, but it's just thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah.
Possibly.
I think it's similar. This we rolled out for 1,200 people for Bell Company and Vodafone, so it's 2 different retail stores, retail chains. But we also developed a game for NN Group, which is a global company, insurance company, among 16,000 people. It's a totally different concept. It's more like a card game, but I think it doesn't really matter what type of game you use or what type of mechanics, as long as they match with the drives and motivations of the target audience. But I don't know if that's really an answer to your question.
This came out of panelsensor.com. We have 2 more of that. So if anybody wants to elaborate, you're welcome to. Meantime, we have another question.
Hello, I have a question because you said you are like deleting those badges each month. So do you notice any negative feedback from like old timers, like from employees who are very long there? And what's the point for me doing this each month? It's not fun anymore at one point.
To be honest, I do not know, because I don't, like I said, I don't work for Vodafone, obviously, so they get all the feedback from people. I can read on the Twitter timeline. So far, obviously you have lovers and haters, but the most people are positive. And since we told them up front that we will reset the badges every month, they know. But I do think, and I think that's the power of a good game concept, is that you keep on innovating and keep on adding new stuff or different stuff. And also be able and be brave and look at the things they don't use. And if they don't use it or don't like it, eliminate it and bring something back for that stuff.
Okay, and I had even earlier one question about the amount of control of an entire system. Do you know if they control employees and do follow-ups about this feedback, or they give like total control, like total freedom of giving any feedback you want, and everybody can see it, and that's the system? Yeah,
for now it's totally open. I don't think they even have like a bad list of words, so I think you can use any word you like even. But since it's transparent, since I know it's just you in my store giving me the feedback, it's so personal that you will not get negative comments or negative feedbacks. And there's another company in Holland called Hunkemöller, and they are also very used to giving feedback, so that could be also an extra, a good client to use a tool like this, just to make it more digital of what you do analogically. I don't believe that you can always change the behavior of people like that, but it is a motivator to start doing something, a good Kickstarter in that sense. Thank you.
Again from Panel Sensor, and I think we're finishing up the questions here. Any example of gamification for a software company, please?
That's a good one. Well, I don't think we ever worked for a software company as such, but we did develop 5 games for Ziggo, which is like a cable and mobile telephone provider in Holland. That was not for the software development, but for the call centers, for instance. And those cases are online. But I don't think it's necessarily, it depends what type of audience you have. I don't care if it's a software developer or a consumer or a manager, as long as you know, really discover what type of person it is and what their drives and motivations are. If you know what motivates them, then you can choose the right mechanics. We don't do that with the game storm, but we do it with gameplay sessions to find out, okay, here's this person, and then do it. It's like giving a painter a hammer. That doesn't really work. You have to give a painter a brush and paint so he can do his job. And so you have to choose the mechanics really carefully. I agree with the question earlier that badges doesn't motivate anyone just like that. So we chose badges because it came out from the interviews we had with people in the stores that they said it would motivate them. Otherwise, we would never have used badges because I was the most skeptical person about applying badges just for game purposes. I think good goals and good purpose motivate people even more. One last question maybe here.
Just a little addition, I'm sorry, about the badges. I know that Twitter has, sorry, just a little addition. I know that the badges sound boring, but all my male friends have this, they play this game, they drink a beer, they get a badge.
Yeah.
And this goes on and on and
Yeah,
on and
even
on.
Vivinio has it. It's with wine. It's the same concept.
So I don't think that it's going to be boring for, if you put it in the right concept.
Once again, I mean, Pokemon is not really for me, but my girlfriend, she's sitting next to Hamed Agdag there, she loves it, and we go for a walk more often now because she wants to find Pokemon. So, yeah, so I mean, it's probably 50-50, and I don't want to bash badges. I mean, we used it. It works, apparently. Otherwise, my client wouldn't say, we're going to make a better product of it. So, but don't believe that gamification is the answer for everyone in every problem. Is there time for one more? Otherwise, you can obviously come to me.
While I'll go there to give the microphone, we have one more from Panel Sensor and another 2 minutes for you to go.
Okay.
So, can you name an augmented reality use cases, since you mentioned Pokemon Go, that will improve productivity and performance through gamification?
I have to talk to you? I know KLM is experimenting right now with this, but that's more virtual reality actually. So they use the VR Oculus Rift right now to see if they can use it for problem solving. For instance, if there's a fire right now here in this room, what would you do? How would you respond? And they use VR, so employees can look in different ways. If they know that there's the fire extinguisher and that's the best thing to do, or look at the phone because it hangs here on the wall, that's what they do. If they keep looking for longer than 2 seconds, they can actually interact with that phone, call 911 or 112, whatever, and then take the procedural steps they need to undertake. I know BMW has been using AR for a long time to train people, mechanics actually, to solve problems with the car. Now, obviously, everyone needs to know all this stuff, but in the future, maybe you put just on your goggles, and the goggles will tell you, if you look at an item, what potentially could be wrong with it, and then how to solve it. So there are a lot of experiments going on, especially with the Oculus Rift coming up. But to be honest, I was very skeptical about alternate reality or augmented reality, because the 2 successful examples I saw up so far were Layer and Pokemon. So I'm still skeptical. Google Glass has been killed, so, well, so far, so I'm not sure. I'm here all day and also in the weekend, so we can go to the Acropolis. Or
Okay, so question from me. Do you think that people can learn to give and receive feedback from this application also in real-life relations, I mean face-to-face relations, or if you just take this application from them, they won't have a chance to give feedback? So I don't know how to give feedback.
Yeah, that's a good, I would love that idea, to be honest, because I think analog is still more important than digital, especially with giving feedback, because I can look in your eyes and see whether you believe me or not. So, I mean, there's nothing that beats this. But to kickstart us to give feedback at all, more than just looking like this or, yeah, sure, whatever, jerk. I mean, that's, so maybe sometimes we need a little push. It's the same with the card game that we developed for the insurance company. They wanted to motivate people to talk about their values. There's nothing like awkwardness about talking about values, like, hey, care, clear, and commit. How are you applying it today? Yeah, I don't know. But we managed to let people play with the card game digitally, and then it became a reason to talk about it. Like, hey, I beat you yesterday with this final action, which was being a professional. Well, you know, stuff like that. So don't take it too seriously, I think, but see it as an ideal Kickstarter for change and to finally, yeah, whether it's this product, it's still, in the end, for my clients, it's about the money, making more profit by motivating people to do things they weren't planning on doing. And that's, I think, it.
Thank you, Bart, really, for all the
Thank you.
questions.